Hello and welcome to the 3 transformational keys to a successful fitness and diet plan for business owners. Over the next hour, I'm going to cover the 3 keys that you need to get an absolutely mad head-turning body, and actually cover some of the things that you're doing wrong, and then show you how to fix it. All right. But to begin with, I just want to cover a few sort of house rules, if you like. Make sure that you've got all of your other, email client and other sort of pages and things. Anything you're not watching this, whatever device you're not watching this on, switch them all off. Lock yourself in a room, nice and quiet. Go get yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or something. Put your feet up and pay attention. Because if you don't, you're not going to know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, then you're not going to get the body that you want. If you don't get the body that you want, then nothing's ever going to change for you. All right. So go ahead, go and do that now. Get yourself settled in, and then we're in for a bit of a cracker today, if I say so myself. Before I start though, just as a bit of a side, I mean, it's certainly no easy feat to get yourself a great body when you're as busy, and as committed as you are, especially as a business owner. I know exactly how that feels. Reason being, I used to be an absolute chubster. In fact, that's a bit of a sort of over-exaggeration, to be honest. I used to be about 4 stone overweight. Not so long ago either, sadly. As soon as business started to take over, long story short, I opened up my wellness clinic. Everything just went on the back burner. My lifestyle, my health, everything completely, went on the back burner. And it was, you just forget about everything. You forget about your own health. You forget about your fitness and what you eat. And it's so much easier to just come home at the end of a long day. You go straight to the fridge. You grab a beer. You might even order in a curry, something like that. And it doesn't take long to really develop some terrible habits, all of which contribute to that. Well, quite frankly, out of shape, flabby, disgusting body that I had at the time, and it gets to a point where you just, enough is enough. All right, so over the next hour, just pay attention. We're going to go through everything and get it all covered. I'm just going to switch over to the presentation. Fingers crossed it all goes well. Right, I think we're in business. Okay, so as I said, this is the 3 transformational keys to a successful fitness and diet plan for business owners. How to get a great head-turning athletic body that looks great naked. Kind of mucked that one up, didn't I? Anyway, even if you're ridiculously busy working and traveling, and without having to stop eating the foods that you love or starving yourself. Now, that's a big one. I'd be the first to admit that when I first actually seriously started taking bodybuilding seriously, I mean, this is going back quite a few years now. I think it's actually about 7 years ago together. I would starve myself, and I absolutely hated dieting. It was just terrible. I was hungry all the time. I could never stick to anything, and for me, that was the worst thing about it. And that is something that over the years, I've refined with many of my clients, and actually look for ways to just make it easier and not feel starved and depleted and lacking in energy, all that kind of stuff. All right, so that is part of what we'll cover today. So I've got some scary stats for you before we get into the main bulk of the presentation, just really to shed some light on a few things. So percentage of adults aged 20 and over with obesity is 37.9%. All right, that was as of 2013 to 40. I mean, I hate to think what it is now. Obesity is on the way up. It's not going to be any less. So it's only getting worse and worse. All right, and the percentage of adults aged 20 and over who are actually considered with overweight, including obesity, is 70%, or just over 70%. All right, so that includes people that are just generally a bit overweight and people that are obese. 70%. I mean, it's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And according to Public Health England, 83% of middle-aged men, or should I say middle-aged people rather, are overweight and drink too much. Alright, I mean that's pretty scary. Alright, 87% of those are men. I mean, if that's not scary, then I honestly don't know what is. Alright, so I've got a few more really, well, kind of ball-breaking stats for you. Alright, so 77% of men are actually classified as obese. Research shows that many people cannot actually identify a healthy body, suggesting that being overweight has become the new norm. Alright, so these days people will often say, when someone asks it, or if someone complains and says, oh, you know, I'm a bit overweight, you know, I'm not feeling too great, and people often say, no, you're not overweight at all. When reality has it, yes, they are fat, but people don't want to admit it. Alright, many more middle-aged people are actually being diagnosed with diabetes, with the rate among the 40 to 60 age group range doubling in the past 20 years. Doubled. That is fucking insane. Alright? Obese adults are more than 5 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, alright, which 90% of adults with diabetes have, than those who are a healthy weight. Alright, so, I mean, that's between a body mass index between 18.5 and 24.9. Alright? I mean, these are some ridiculous stats. I mean, I still can't get my head around them, and it's incredibly scary considering the fitness industry over the last, well, even the last sort of 10, 15 years has blown up, and yet the rates of obesity, diabetes, I mean, they're skyrocketing. I mean, that's in the UK alone. I mean, I hate to think when you bring in our colonial cousins overseas, if you add together the US and the UK stats, well, it doesn't even really bear thinking about. Alright. So, what are we going to cover in today's online seminar? We're going to cover the 3 transformational keys. So, we're going to learn how to replace feeling restricted, hungry, and hating exercise with feeling motivated, focused, and you're going to enjoy the process. Alright, so you're going to get results that you never thought were possible and actually enjoy the process of doing so. You're going to get my proven plan. Alright, so this is the plan that I've used with many clients over the years, specifically business owners, in particular very busy execs, so people that don't have the time or the wherewithal to actually get the results. You're going to get that proven plan that lasts, and get the results that actually last, and you're going to get the exact process. Alright, so it is the exact process that I do give my clients. Alright, that helps them lose the inches off the beer bellies while building muscle. Number 3, you're going to find out what's wrong with traditional dieting and exercise. Alright, so I'm going to explain and break down the 3-step adaptable dieting system. Alright, that gets results without you having to cut any of the foods you actually love. Alright, so 3 main keys, and I'm sure you can kind of relate to some of these. Perhaps you've tried, losing the weight before, maybe haven't been quite so successful. I'm going to cover it all today in this seminar. I've also got a bonus for you as well. Alright, so just encourage you to stay with me. At the end of the seminar, I'm going to offer you 5 breakthrough sessions. I'd normally charge £100 for, but as a thank you for staying with me through the seminar, you're going to get them completely free. Alright, I do have to limit the sessions, and I'm not just saying that for some bullshit scarcity reason. That's not me. That's not what I'm about. I just don't have the time and the capacity in my diary to help any more people one-on-one and give them the quality and the one-on-one time that they need to get the results. Alright, so that's why I'm limiting it to 5 sessions. At least then I'm not overrunning my own diary and I can still help people get results. So, who am I? And why should you listen to me? Well, I've been working in the health and fitness industry for a little over, well, it's actually about over 6 years now. I mean, my passion of fitness goes all the way back to when I was about 12 years old. I was a pretty tubby kid back then as well, and it really transferred over into my adult life as well. So yeah, I've been in the industry helping other people for over it's actually coming up to about 6.5 years now, to be specific. I've worked with hundreds of clients, many who, like as I mentioned, are entrepreneurial types, business owners, and I'm essentially I help them manage their own nutrition, their fitness around their companies. Many of my clients, which have operated multiple companies, so it's actually a bit of a strategic nightmare a lot of the time, but I help them through that. And I'm a certified personal trainer, nutrition expert, and author. All right, and I run my own multidisciplinary wellness clinic in Southampton. All right, and I'll be completely honest, it's been built on amazing clients. All right, the guys I've worked with, they really have been great. They've listened to everything I've asked them to do, and they've stuck with it, and they've got great results. All right, and I am just like you. All right, you must remember this. Although, yes, I have dedicated a large part of my life to health and fitness, but I do, as I'm speaking at the moment, I do operate a couple of companies, one of them being the wellness clinic, and another one being a professional writing service as well. But I have a lot on my plate. I have a lot to manage, and I can still manage to get the results for myself and for my clients. All right. As I mentioned, I used to be a lardy boy. Unfortunately, business did take over. I neglected myself, and I had to tackle all the challenges and the stumbling blocks that you're struggling with now. But I found a way of dropping the weight without feeling hard done by, hating my life, and working it around my business and other priorities. I'm well aware that you may well have kids. You may well have many other obligations that you have to stick to. So in that sense, I've got it kind of good. No kids, no extra baggage. It is just me, my companies, and my girlfriend, who helps me with a lot of my work as well. All right, but I do get that. That you've probably got a hell of a lot more on than I do, and that's the great thing. I can work with you with that. I can help you. All right, but moving on. I've also got numerous injuries to contend with. Alright, so unfortunately, I have been plagued from multiple different problems, including chronic pain syndrome, and something that might not mean much to you, but severe pelvic torsion. Alright, so in other words, you imagine taking my pelvis, rotating it forwards, sideways, and then tilting it up, pretty much on its side, and that's what I'm left with. So I do battle with chronic pain, down to those problems with my pelvis, back pain, problems with my knees, my neck. There's a lot going on, and I do have to work around it. It's quite well, to put it quite honestly, it's a ball ache, but I do work through it. All right. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, key number one we're going to cover: never feel restricted, hungry, and hating exercise. Now, this is a big part of any diet and exercise plan, because after working with hundreds of different business owners over the years and being a pretty time-constrained person myself, as I mentioned, it's always been difficult to adhere to a specific diet and exercise plan and not feel like I'm being restricted in the process. All right, it's not to mention being seriously fucking hungry. All right, so it's a big ask. When your body's getting used to a whole new regime of eating, of exercise, and your body's kind of screaming out, saying, "What the hell are you doing?" And you've got to keep pushing through that. And it's not easy. And the worst thing you can do is restrict yourself. All right. And we all know if you don't stick to a plan, you will fall flat on your face every single time. All right? It's no different than running a business. All right? If the plan is already an uphill battle and you're feeling like it's taking the pleasure out of you, all right, because you feel hungry and pissed off all of the time, you're not going to stick to it. All right? That's period. You're not going to stick to it. And as I said, it is just like a business. you have to treat it almost like you're rebuilding your company again. All right, building a body is very much the same. You know, there's certain processes, and you have to have a plan in place to understand where you're actually where you're going, where you want to get to. All right. So how do we get around this? Well, there's a few key parts to this, and there's a few key parts to this specific key. And the first one is actually something called food bulk. Now, there are various different things that you have to consider, but one of them is food bulk. And it's actually been able to eat more and weigh less. All right, it might seem like a diet is an impossible dream, but it's not. All right. So one of the reasons so many people often feel hungry on a diet is down to the amount of bulk particular foods actually give you. All right. So foods that have a high water or fiber content add bulk to your meals. All right. So you feel satisfied without having to actually eat more calories than you should. And that's a big part of it. You don't want to be eating foods that aren't going to fill you up, because obviously you are going to feel more hungry. And when you're hungry, you're going to start making emotional decisions, and you will then start reaching for the cupboard, for those biscuits, for the crisps, the chocolate bars. That is not the way to go. Alright, so the system I use to get clients to follow, it's actually nothing new, and the beauty of it is it addresses the food bulk issue as well as the other two essential parts of this particular key. Alright. So it's called the caveman diet. Now, this isn't, as I mentioned, it's nothing new, and you may well know it as if you've done any of your own research into various different diets, ways of losing weight. It's got various different names, two being the caveman diet and the paleo diet. You might well have actually come across this on your searches on the internet. The camps are, so you've got, in the fitness industry, you've got many different trainers and experts and nutritionists, dietitians. They've all got their own kind of take on the best way to live a healthy life, the best way to lose weight, and the camps are split as to whether it's a fad diet or not, right? But I can tell you now, it's not. All right, it actually mimics the way our ancestors used to eat many years ago in the Paleolithic era, before processed foods became widely available. Right, so we're actually only eating what our genetic code has designed us to consume. If that doesn't make sense, then I really don't know what does. All right, we're eating what we're designed to eat. And a lot of people argue the point, saying that our Paleolithic ancestors didn't live very long. Well, that is true, but they didn't live very long because of all the diseases around, because of the lack of antibiotics, because of the predators, the natural predators, and all the different things they had to contend with that we don't have to anymore. All right, it's got nothing to do with the fucking diet they're on. It's got nothing to do with that. So I just want to make that clear. All right. So the diet itself requires high volumes of vegetables, meats, and nuts. All right, and to a slightly lesser extent, fruit. You do have to go a bit easy on the fruit because yes, it does have quite a lot of sugar in it in the form of fructose. All right, and this is, that's kind of, it's oversimplified, but it does cover the overall kind of basis of the diet. All right, just to get your head around what we're dealing with. And one of the biggest benefits of actually eating this way is it helps regulate your blood sugar levels. Now, it's got nothing to do with, so a lot of people seem to think that your blood sugar levels affect your hunger pangs. So when you go on a caloric restricted diet, so you're restricting the amount of calories you're getting in and the amount of food you're eating, a lot of people do believe that it's the blood sugar levels that affect the way we, whether we feel satiated, whether we feel like, we feel full after eating. But it's not. It's actually all down to a hormone. It's actually the hunger hormone, ghrelin. And it's reduced during periods of low blood sugar, when growth hormone levels are elevated and insulin levels are at their lowest. All right. So if you don't manage your blood sugars, then yes, your hormones, your ghrelin levels are going to be all over the place. So as I mentioned there, so your blood sugar levels are actually all over the place, and you're gonna feel hungry most of the time. And chronically elevated levels of blood sugar, which render you insulin and leptin resistant, all right, stay with me on this one, they screw up your hunger signaling altogether. All right, so it makes it very hard to lose fat and regulate your blood sugar feeding patterns. All right. So the lack of energy as well. So that's a big part. Obviously, you're feeling restricted, hungry, and hating exercise. Well, if you're restricting yourself, if you're really, pushing yourself, you're pushing the boundaries. Suddenly, you cut out all the crap. You start eating really, really clean. You've got all the healthy foods. But all of a sudden, you go on this, low carbohydrate, high protein diet. That's what everyone else does. All the celebrities kind of suggest. What about the lack of energy? So you feel like crap. You get halfway through the day, and you can't take any more of it. So what do we do about that? Well, it's because your blood sugar levels and your insulin response are regulated. Your body levels, your energy levels rather, are actually much higher. All right. So this diet helps you regulate your blood sugar levels. And that insulin response is actually curbed, so your energy levels aren't getting spiked and then dropping through the floor, and then you need you need more food to bring them up and down, and you find it's like you climb the mountain, you feel great, and then you get a massive drop. All right, so your sugar levels bring you right down through the floor, and you need that pick me up again. All right, this diet helps you manage it. And you actually don't feel like exercise is as much of a chore, right? So if you're not someone who goes to the gym, well, you're not going to be someone that goes to the gym on a regular basis. If you're actually watching this presentation, I very much doubt it. But you won't feel like it's as much of a chore. You might not necessarily really enjoy it, but getting to the gym, getting in there and doing the work you need to do, it's not going to feel like, you're not going to hate your life, basically. That's the bottom line. So, key number 2, getting extraordinary results that last. Alright, so one of the biggest issues with diet and fitness plans is actually getting results that last beyond a few weeks or months. A lot of people end up yo-yo dieting, and actually the training for that matter is actually no different. Right, so it's become the norm. People will spend 2 weeks. They'll smash the diet. They'll train every single day. They'll be aching. They'll push through it. Maybe 2-3 weeks in, and then they fall off the wagon. They lose that motivation and they go back to what they were doing before. And then maybe 3-4 months in, something triggers it again. So they might look in the mirror. You look at your beer belly, your sagging man tits, and then you think, oh, shit, I need to do something about this again. And that's where that burst of motivation comes from again. You're back into the healthy eating, you're back in the gym, but again, 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks if you're lucky, you're back on the wrong side of the tracks again. All right. So going all out for a short period of time, relying only on motivation, not only guarantees that you pile the weight back on, but it also means any future endeavours to lose weight will be much harder, both physically and psychologically. All right. In a nutshell, you're conditioning your body to get used to the yo-yoing effect. So you'll shed loads of weight, and all of a sudden, your body will go into like a starvation mode. So it'll think, oh shit, I need to hold on to all the stored fat I've got. And then when you go back to eating crap again and you fall off of the wagon, everything you start eating then gets stored as fat. Alright, gets stored as glycogen and then gets stored as adipose tissue. Alright, so fat underneath the skin. Psychologically, it's a big issue as well, because you kind of get into a subconscious routine of saying you're going to do something, and you push yourself for those few weeks, and then you fall off the wagon again, and then it's so much harder every time to try to get back on that wagon, it's so much harder mentally. There's such mental exhaustion just to continue with what you were doing before. Alright, so that's what we want to avoid. So how do we stay consistent with our training and our new diet? You start slow and then advance. Alright, so that's the first thing you want to do. Take it easy. Alright, so you start training, maybe 3 days a week, no more than that. Alright, just 3 days a week. Get into the routine of doing some exercise and actually, getting used to getting your heart rate up, getting used to that burn that you have in your muscles and in your lungs. Alright, whether you're doing cardio, excuse me, throat's going there, whether that's cardio or whether it's lifting weights, you need to condition your body slowly at the beginning. Otherwise, you're going to wake up every single morning, you're going to feel like shit, every single muscle group's going to hurt, you might even end up with a little bit of a cough, something that's called cardio cough in the industry, which isn't particularly pleasant. Because your lungs and your heart, none of it is not used to anything you're doing. If you go in and you're smashing it 5 to 6 days a week, you just can't keep it up. All right. Don't dramatically alter your calorie deficit. So don't go if you're eating, say if you're used to eating say the average of most people's diets, say 2,500 calories a day. Don't then cut it down to 500 calories a day. Alright, that's not going to do any good whatsoever, because again, your body is going to go into that starvation mode and it's going to hold on to all of the calories that you consume thereon after. So focus on food quality rather than quantity. A lot of the system that I use to get results for my clients is predicated on the idea that you focus on the quality of the food you're consuming rather than the calories you're taking on board. A lot of people will argue and say, well, it's, if you want to lose weight, if you want to look good, it's calories in versus calories out. So if you alter the deficit, so say if your body needs, say it needs 2,500 calories to just sustain your body weight, and then if you restrict it by 500 calories, you're going to lose weight. Well, not necessarily, alright? Not all calories are counted equal. Some calories are going to be worse than others. Case in point, if you eat a Mars bar, and let's say, just for sake of argument, say it's 250 calories, that's 250 calories that are completely empty. It's all sugar, alright? So your body is literally going to burn it up ridiculously quickly. It's then going to get stored as glycogen, or if your body has already stored it way too much as glycogen, it's going to get stored as body fat. Alright, as opposed to a meal that's 250 calories of healthy balanced proteins to fats to carbohydrates, good starchy fibrous carbohydrates, proteins and good fats. It's clearly not the same. Alright, so it's not all about the calorie deficit, and this is why I've met people in the past who eat literally as little as 300 calories a day, which is just absolutely fucking insane. Alright, and they don't lose any weight whatsoever. And this is why. Alright, they think that all calories are exactly the same when they're not. So it takes 21 to 40 days, roughly. I expect there's a lot of numbers bandied around out there as opposed to, to what you're actually doing. But between 21 to 40 days generally is what it takes to form a habit. Okay, so if you're starting slow and you're slowly advancing, slowly building up all of these positive habits, training 3 days a week, focusing on better quality foods, eventually it will become a habit. And then you will do it. You'll just do it without thinking about it. Alright. Number 2, don't rely on motivation. Alright, if you want to get those amazing results at last, for the love of all things holy, do not rely on motivation alone. It does absolutely nothing. Alright. You can feel absolutely pumped up and motivated. You might even feel really pumped up and motivated after being on this online seminar. But how long is that going to last? A day, maybe two, maybe a week if you're lucky. But it's not going to be there all the time. All right? You're not going to feel motivated all the time. You're not going to wake up every single morning and think, yes, I get to go to the gym. I get to, lift some heavy weights. I get to, follow this diet plan of, really healthy foods, and it just doesn't work. All right. Once habits are formed, motivation actually won't get in the way of you doing these things. So motivation kind of becomes a bit of I guess the best word is a non sequitur, really, because you do need that motivation to get going, but you don't need it to get the outcome that you want. All right, it's the habits, it's having a strategic plan that's put in place to form new habits that gets you there in the long run. It's exactly, again, I refer back to building a business, because you will know exactly what that's like. You know what it's like building a business. You have to have that plan. You have to form the habits of doing those same actions every single day to build your business up. It might only be 4 or 5 key things that builds that business and gets the money coming in. All right, but if you're not doing them every day, then you're going to fall by the wayside in the beginning. It's no different building a body. Number 3, you need to be accountable. All right, so you actually need to have someone to be accountable to. Otherwise, it's easy to skip the workouts or eat unhealthy foods if you haven't got anyone to actually be accountable to. All right, whether that's a coach, whether it's a buddy, you need someone there who is basically going to kick your ass if you don't stick to the plan. All right, so nobody wants to disappoint someone else. If you've planned a gym session at 6:30 in the morning and your buddy turns up there 25 minutes past and they're thinking, hang on a minute, where's John, where's Joe, what, I'm here, where are you? You're not going to want to let down that person, especially if they're a friend or a colleague, heaven forbid a coach. I tell you now, in the past, on the rare occasion that people haven't shown up, I've given them the bollocking of a lifetime. Okay, it's not acceptable, and you're not going to want to let people down. All right, it's a big intrinsic motivator to actually be accountable to someone. All right, so you don't have a get out of jail free card. There's no hiding when you make the wrong choices when you've got someone to be accountable to. Particularly a coach as well. I mean, over the years, I've pretty much made people so accountable that they have to stick to their. We have check-ins every week. I make people fill out their food diaries, all these kind of things, all these little things that people don't realise, but that is what helps form the habits. All right, it's when you've got someone that you're accountable to, you're not going to make the wrong choices. You're just not. You want to be consistent with who you are as a human being. So, have workout. Oh, hang on a minute. What's going on with me? Top. Let's get rid of that a minute. It's always ideal when technology doesn't want to work. So yeah, you've got to have a workout and diet plans in place. All right. So if you don't have a plan in place, as I mentioned, you will fall flat on your face. All right. As I've said to you, it's no different from building a business. Having a plan in place, it gives you a roadmap of where you're going, and actually where you start from as well. You need to know exactly. You need to take inventory and find out where you are now. So you take inventory. How much do you weigh? What's your body fat? What size clothes are you? All of these different things. You take a before and after picture. You stick it up on the fridge and you say, right, that's who I am now, and then in your head what you want to look like. All right, you understand where you're going and what you want to aspire to. Number 5, you set rules and you stick to them. Pretty obvious with this one, but just to give you an example, perhaps you won't go more than 3 days without training. That's actually something that I've adhered to for the last, the last 6-7 years. I have not gone more than 3 days without a workout or doing some kind of exercise, strenuous exercise. It's my own rule now. It's I do get some of my clients to go with it as well, but it's my own sort of personal rule. Never have more than 1 day out of 10 that you're eating a bad meal. All right, so on the food front, this can be quite useful at kind of establishing, boundaries as far as your the bad, I say quote unquote bad meals. So you don't have more than 1 day out of that 10 of having something crap before you get back onto your normal routine. So you have a few precise rules to help maintain healthy habits. All right. Again, these are things that if you work with a coach, they'll help you establish it. But some pretty basic rules. I mean, these are very simple, but it's having these rules to give you structure to your day to day. Your working days, and it helps you just stay on track. All of these things are just they help you stay on track. All right. Number 6, if and whenever you can, train in the mornings. The mornings are a magical time. All right. The earlier the better. And a lot of people in the past used to believe it was down to your metabolism, getting your metabolism raring. When reality is, it's just because you're not quite as tired to start with, and you actually make better food choices later in the day. So, if you train in the morning, you naturally feel I'll use the word, you naturally feel motivated. All right, but it carries on through the rest of the day. It transfers into other parts of your day. So when you're looking at the food menu, perhaps you're at work, or you're looking at the local deli menu, and you're kind of thinking, what should I go for? I'm not going to go for that really disgusting looking bacon and sausage and egg bap, because I don't want to ruin all the hard work I put in this morning in the early hours. I'm going to go for this salad, for example. So you tend to make much better food choices later in the day. Alright, you've got limited distractions. Now, for people who have got kids, I don't know whether you've got kids or not, but all the other kind of business distractions that come along later on in the day, I expect you might well have been getting up early anyway, so you can avoid getting swamped with phone calls and emails. Well, it's exactly the same when it comes to your fitness. The early hours in the morning are your hours to focus on your new fitness and diet routine. Okay. Moving on. So, key number 3, what's wrong with traditional dieting and exercise, and the 3-step adaptable dieting system. So, pretty much any government advice that you'll find will constitute, a balanced diet. And again, quote unquote, balanced, as the bulk of it being starchy carbohydrates, followed by a smaller amount of protein and even smaller amounts of fats. All right, so we'll just get up there. It's so wrong. It is just so wrong. And here's that visual. So, just so you can kind of see, it's just horrendous. I mean, you look at if you flipped it on its head, you'd have much better results. I mean, it's kind of oversimplified, but you've got 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates, bread, pasta, rice, all of these things, all of this energy. This is where you get your energy from your carbohydrates, or what the vast majority of people do. And your next level up, you've got fruit. Yes, you've got vegetables here as well, but again, fruit, more carbohydrates, it's sugar. All right, and it's exactly the same when it comes to the pasta, the breads, your wraps, and all that kind of stuff. In the end, once it's been broken down, once your body has broken it down to its simplest form, it gets broken down into sugar. All right, glucose. So essentially, all you're doing in the long run is massively spiking your blood sugar levels. And as I was mentioning earlier, that insulin sensitivity is the whole thing is just going nuts. All right, but the problem is as well. It's an old adage. This often it's still, do you know, it's still bandied around by so many, dietitians and experts as they call themselves, saying that fat's bad for you. Right? It's just another really ridiculous fact that's thrown around out there. Most of the human body itself, the cells in our body are maintained by fat, specifically saturated fat, which is what pretty much, when you look at every government recommendation, saturated fat is it's the evil one, it's the bad guy in the whole thing. All right, you've got milk, yogurt, and cheese, all your kind of dairy products. But there's another thing as well going into it as well, that wheat, gluten, dairy, all of these things that our body can't actually break them down very well. They can't break down these foods. We're not built that way. We never have been. But over the years, we've kind of adapted to it. But what it means is we're not operating our optimal what we call optimal gene expression. Okay, so we're not burning the amount of fat that we could be. The amount of stored fat as if we were eating in a slightly different way. So eating a higher fat, higher protein, focused on vegetables, meats, and nuts. All right. So the current dietary recommendations are actually causing higher counts of diabetes and fat storage for the reasons I've just explained. So the unnecessary amounts of carbohydrates. All right. Our energy systems are also used to burning or using glycogen as a source of energy rather than our ancestral preferred fat stores, or should I say, our preferred ancestral energy system is burning stored fat in our body. Okay, so all we're doing is actually burning the glycogen in the muscles rather than the fat that's stored in our body. So traditional exercise recommendations as well, to be honest, they aren't much better. They're not convenient, and quite often they're not effective either. All right, so recommending 30 minutes of aerobic exercise 5 times a week. To translate that in layman's terms, it basically means that any kind of aerobic activity, so running, running longer distances, walking, cycling, all of that kind of low impact exercise, 5 times a week for 30 minutes. It could work, yes, but for someone who runs a business, someone who hasn't got a huge amount of time, perhaps they need to maximize their time and make it a lot more efficient. It's definitely something I wouldn't recommend, and it's not your optimal training system either. Go anaerobic. So, for example, 3 times a week, you can train using a hybrid of resistance training, so lifting weights, using resistance bands, even your own body weight, and then mixing that with cardio, so lower rest periods, and integrating the high intensity interval training, so that HIIT, which I'm sure if you've done any research into it, you've probably come across a few HIIT sessions of your own. It takes less time, and it also means you burn calories post-exercise. So you're not actually just burning the calories in the session. Okay, you're burning them sometimes up to 48 hours post-exercise, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, who wouldn't want to be burning calories 2 days after they've actually done a workout? I mean, it's insane. So, the 3-step adaptable dieting system. Now, this is something that I've developed and I've kind of tweaked over the years of, dealing with various different people, particularly business owners and people with very little time in the day to get the results that they want. And it goes completely against the traditional recommendations. All right, it's very polar. I mean, it's the polar opposite of what the government is telling you to do. I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists, but I honestly do believe that many of the recommendations that the government makes is to essentially keep pharmaceutical companies actually in business, to keep us unhealthy, keep us ill, and keep stuffing drugs down our throats. I honestly do believe that, and when you actually look at the evidence, it all stacks up, but people don't want to believe it. Okay. It serves as a solution to our high carb lifestyles, and it encourages our body's natural fat burning systems. Okay, so it's going back to the whole using glycogen or burning glycogen for energy in the muscles, when you can actually transform your energy systems and start burning fat as a source of energy. Right? That's what this dieting system is actually. That's what it's designed for. It's not just I call it a dieting system, but it's a lifestyle. It's a way of living. It's not just a kind of fad diet. The fucking Atkins diet, or one of these other fad diets where you eat 3 lima beans a day or any of that bollocks. It's got nothing to do with that. All right, it's based on scientific evidence, and it's based on how we used to live. All right. It covers you for each stage of your transformation. All right, so it means sustained results and no yo-yoing back and forth. All right, so you're not gonna kind of go 1-2 weeks in, fall off the wagon, back on it again, fall off of it again. It's sustained, sometimes slow results. So not everything's quick, but it's consistent. It's all consistency at the end of the day. If you're consistent with what you're doing, you're going to get the results. Right? And that's what this is designed. That's what this program's designed for. So, step 1, changing energy sources. So as I mentioned, we're looking to change over to a source, a completely different source. We use fat. So the first step is designed to boost metabolism and drive the body to use fat as its main source of energy. All right. So the initial phase, which lasts for 4 weeks, weight loss can be as much as 2 kilos, so 4.1 pounds per week, which is pretty damn good. And when you consider it's a very healthy weight to lose. It's something that you can keep off for the long term. Years after you've lost that weight, it's very easy to do. Step 2 is metabolic adjustment. All right. So what I mean by metabolic adjustment is you're getting your metabolism, you're getting your body used to the new system of creating energy. All right. So for you to function. And with the gradual addition of higher carb foods, the weight loss process, it does start to slow down a bit. Right? It's about 1 kilo, so about 2.2 pounds a week typically. The goals of this step are actually to deplete your fat reserves and establish new eating habits. Right? Prepare you for the third step. We're going to come on to that in a second. But what we're doing with this step is we're encouraging your body to burn fat as its primary source of energy, and then we're very gradually tapering off and actually adding the high carb foods back into your diet. All right. I don't mean your chocolate bars and packets of crisps and all of that crap. I'm talking about good quality carb sources. All right. We're not at that stage where you can start eating crap. All right. It's not something I would recommend on a cheat days are great, and there's a time and a place for it, and there's a certain time and point in the journey that I would even recommend it, but we're not there yet. All right, we're still at a point where you're getting used to the changes, your body's getting used to it, so we're still sticking to fairly pretty good sources of carbohydrates before we start going into the simple carbs. We need to establish those new eating habits first. All right. So the third step, maintenance. Pretty obvious, but a lot of people, they keep going, and eventually you hit a plateau, and then they kind of fall off the wagon in the long run, because they don't have that pre-planned destination they want to get to. Okay, so when the weight and the body fat goals met, the third step of the program actually starts, and the goals of this particular step are to maintain and manage the desired weight and the body fat percentage through a healthy, varied and balanced diet and a regular exercise regime. Right, so it's having it all in place. It's having the, it's having the diet nailed down. It's having the new habits established, and having a plan on a day-to-day basis to actually stick to all of this as well, and having that regular exercise regime in place. All right, so it's not, you don't want to feel, again, it goes back to the first key. You don't want to feel restricted in anything you do. There's ways around it, and once you make a few of those mindset shifts in particular, and you start establishing those new habits, the maintenance becomes easy. You get into a habit of eating the same foods. Your view on food completely changes as well. That's a big thing. Excuse me, a bit of a cough at the moment, just recovering from a cold, as you do. It's a big thing, changing your views on the way you eat and the way you actually choose to, the way you make the decisions about what you eat as well. You're not eating so emotionally anymore. You're eating almost to a point you see it more as a source of fuel. All right, you can still enjoy your food. That's not what I'm saying, but you're picking the foods, you're making the sensible choices, but you're doing it completely by habit, because your emotions are completely balanced out. You've got a plan. You're happy where you're at. All right, so that maintenance stage is incredibly important to establish that we've come full circle, and you just keep on top of things. All right. So those are the 3 transformational keys that I use with business owners that I work with to achieve literally life-changing results, including a body that looks incredible naked and the sort of confidence that commands the room the minute you step into it. Okay? None of this is easy. I'm not even going to lie and bullshit to you. This is going to be hard. All right? It requires commitment, determination, and a willingness to change. There is absolutely no fucking point in going on an endeavor like this. Again, going back to the building a business example, there's no point in saying that you're going to change and embarking on something unless you're willing to commit everything into it, change your life, and change your lifestyle, and change all the habits that have got you to where you are now. All right, you've got to have that willingness to change. And as I said, you've got to change your habits, your beliefs, and then subsequently your body will change. All right. So these 3 transformational keys are everything you need to succeed. But the sad fact is that most people I share this information with do absolutely nothing with it. All right. It is really, really sad. They stay fat, unhappy, and forever self-conscious about their weight and the way they look. I'm forever talking with people that come through my clinic. I mean, I'm talking more along the lines, they're not even ready to change. But people come in for, perhaps they come in for beauty treatments or sports massage to see one of my other therapists, and they moan and bitch and whine about how they put on weight, how they're not happy and life is just taking them over, but they're doing absolutely fuck all about it. And it does my head in. It literally gets my goat no end. All right? And you're also susceptible to a plethora of different health problems that actually reduce your life expectancy, as if people really care about that, because most people want to look great. But you're much more susceptible to things like heart disease, diabetes, early death, all of this shit you do not want. All right? If you want a long, happy and fulfilled life, you don't want that. All right, so I want to offer you the chance to not be one of these people. Okay, so I'm offering you the opportunity to actually jump on a call with me, okay? And I'll explain all of this in detail, and together we'll create a plan that works for you, specifically for you, and a way of implementing it in your life right now. All right? Now, I might offer you the opportunity to work with me, but I just want to make this clear now. There is absolutely no guarantee of this. All right. The call itself is to actually find out what's not working for you right now, and we can remedy it. Okay, so we'll come up with a plan, we'll work out, see what's going wrong, and actually, work out how we can remedy it. But I only work with people that, one, I get along with to start with, and two, I know I can get the results for. All right. So if someone comes to me and they say, "Yeah, I'm ready to do this," and I say to them, "Well, how committed are you? Are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you 10 out of 10 on this?" And they say, "Wow, I'm about a 9. I want this." I was like, "No, that's not good enough. You need to be 100% committed to making a change." All right. There's absolutely no. There's no difference with this. All right. You have to want it. All right. If you meet the criteria, I'll offer you a space, or I may offer you a space on my body transformation program. All right, which is predicated on the 3 transformational keys. All right. So, what's the next step? Pretty obvious. All right, you're going to book your breakthrough call now. Use the link below. It's peakperformancerehab.co.uk/3 keys breakthrough call. All right. But, so I want to make something clear. As I said, there's only 5 spaces available. Again, it's all time pending. All right, so it really depends on whether I can fit people into my diary and still give them the attention and the attention to get the results, basically. So if you are really serious about making a change, and you have to be serious about transforming your body, boosting your self-image and your confidence, and changing the overall dynamic of your life and business, then you can either click or copy and paste that link, depending on whatever device you're on, and book your slot. All right, peakperformancerehab.co.uk, 3 keys breakthrough call. All right. So, on that note, I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and hopefully I will speak to you on the call. All right. All the best. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.